Welcome to this presentation on stream entry. Teachings leading to Nibbana is actually about entering into stream. Nibbana includes 4 stages, including stream entry to Arahantship. And teachings leading to Nibbana or stream entry, which is the first stage, can be developed based on developing the right understandings of the deep teachings. And the best way to understand the teachings leading to Nibbana is actually asking from someone who has gained to such an understanding across the 4 stages of Nibbana, as otherwise practitioners can practice in many ways without gaining a benefit of their own practice, and they can go into samsara. So what do we mean by stream entry is actually going against the kind of ordinary understanding and beyond ordinary ways of doing things and understanding things. For instance, ordinary way of beings in general is that when they are born, they like to enjoy life, always looking for amusement, and all beings. This would be applicable to all beings, that they would seek enjoyment. As a matter of enjoyment, there will come the consequences, and eventually they will realize, based on their life experiences, that the same kind of thing that gave them satisfaction at one point of life will eventually bring dissatisfaction in life as well. And so therefore, when that occurs in real life experience, someone might question what's the meaningfulness of life and seek alternative ways to find satisfaction, and that could be seen as a mind seeking and looking for ways to gaining Nibbana. So one of the interesting things is that Nibbana is always can be understood by understanding beyond ordinary ways. So if you were to question what is Nibbana, Nibbana means 4 stages that happens from stream entry to Arahantship. And how Nibbana happens? Nibbana happens just like birth for beings, and it is an instant. It can last a few thoughts. It just happens at a random moment of time, and equally the rest of the stages happen in a similar manner. So Nibbana to be seen as a birth in the noble lineage, shaped that happens as a matter of one's own karma and merits, and so therefore the practice leading to Nibbana is universally applicable, because Nibbana happens because of universal functioning, and the universe does not discriminate beings, given that the universally applicable law of karma is applicable to all beings. And that just means, in other way around, the way in which people or beings attain Nibbana can differ based on their own karma. So for instance, someone who lives a particular lifestyle, or someone who doesn't, or someone who speak a different language, all of them, subject to their own merits and karma, can gain Nibbana, and these external things are not a factor shaping their ability to gain Nibbana, and therefore the practice is universally applicable. So, one interesting thing about the practice is that training the mind in a middle way. That is also because, in general, mind tend to functions in two ways. Let's think about it. For instance, untrained mind tend to function in two ways. In many ways, actually, let's take an example. For instance, expectations. The mind tend to have expectations in general, or mind tend to lose all expectations. So when mind tend to have expectation, the same kind of expectations when they don't fulfill, then the mind brings dissatisfaction. On the other way around, when the mind lost all kind of expectations, the mind experiences very dissatisfaction, and so the life itself became dissatisfied. So the mind functions either in a state of wanting or having expectations, or can also functions in not having expectations. And the middle mind training meaning understanding in real life for all of us that sometimes expectations that we have can come to fulfill, and sometimes it may not come to fulfill. And so when it comes to fulfill, that's okay. When it does not come to fulfill, that's still okay. This kind of thinking and taking an action as much as possible to resolve situation is what is needed. But clinging too much into expectations in either side is not really helpful to maintain peace in mind. And equally, if you were to think about middle mind training, sometimes we can also extend this to positive thinking and negative thinking, which is the kind of standard ways of thinking. Someone can think positively or someone can think negatively, and when there are positive thinking is maintained, the same positive thinking is subject to change, and when the negative thinking is maintained, the mind can experience a lot of dissatisfaction. And either way, both positive or negative thinking itself is subject to change, and therefore not clinging into either sides but training the mind to accept as they come, and not too much having expectations, not too much thinking positively, because whenever there is a positive thing, there comes also a negative thing. And this is how the life functions for all of us, understanding that the training to understand that realization itself is a part of training the mind to gain realization, nibbana. So nibbana is something that needs to be trained in one's thought process, and the kind of external things are not relevant for training one's thought process. So nibbana is not about a lifestyle. It is not about traditions, divisions, or Buddhist schools. It is not a philosophy or set of words or textbooks. Or nibbana is not living in the present moment, or such as mindfulness meditation. This is also because nibbana, to be understood properly, that it is based on universally applicable karma, and anyone who has fulfilled the requirements for merits and shaped their karma can gain stream entry at a random instance. Birth in noble lineage happens out of socially created rites and rituals, because it is not possible to make someone force enter into Nibbana, just like it is not possible to make someone's birth happen, because it's a natural process created at the universal level, just like birth for beings. However, practicing or training the mind to gain into such a state is possible. And also, if Nibbana is not about a lifestyle, this is also because Nibbana is depending on karma, so there is no indication to say that one particular way is the only way to gain Nibbana, as karma is diverse. Whenever any being completes their own merits and karma to gain stream entry, irrespective of their lifestyle, they can gain into such a state of Nibbana. Also, from a different point of view, if Nibbana were a lifestyle, and lifestyle can be temporary and subject to change, Nibbana would indicate something that is temporary and subject to change. But Nibbana is the end of samsara. For example, there can be monks who become monks by according to standard social ways by following rituals. And if they will decide later giving up a lifestyle based on rituals just because they want to give up such a lifestyle, or it may well be due to natural death, then that would indicate they give up Nibbana when they are giving up a lifestyle. And then that would indicate Nibbana is a temporary process based on ritualistic lifestyle. However, Nibbana is the end of our samsara, so it is not a temporary lifestyle, and it is to be understood as that brings something stable. With the birth in the noble lineage, there comes a stable peace and end of samsara for beings, and that happens at one instance as a universal happening, just like birth for beings, and it is not something that is socially created. And equally, why Nibbana is not about traditions, divisions, and similar things, and also philosophy of certain words, it's also because it is a happening and not about a textbook or philosophy. It is a happening just like birth for beings, and therefore it is not about traditions or divisions or books and similar things. And if we were to think a bit about why Nibbana is not about living in the present moment or meditation practice, because mind functions autonomously, and to maintain mindfulness in the present moment is impossible in the sense that it is subject to change. And so Nibbana is not about maintaining mindfulness in the present moment by conscious state of mind. Rather, it is something that appear to be, that come to establish, just like birth in the noble lineage happens. So it comes to be. It's not something consciously produced, and so it comes to be into cessation or cease to exist at the Arahant stage, because someone previously gained into stream entry and developed across the rest of the stages. So one of the interesting things that, because there are 4 stages of Nibbana, and the way in which one gains to each stage and the practice across 4 stages differs, it would worth to give explanation and understand how to gain into the first stage first. And once after one gain is to stream entry, the rest of the stages will follow through eventually. So the practice requires shaping one's thoughts and intentions in daily life. So the practice is actually about very subtle, so that's why it's important to actually understand how this middle mind training works. Let's say, for instance, there is someone who chooses to live a lifestyle of a monk based on rituals, but their mind experiences delight when they receive alms, honor, or various kind of gains, and the mind does experience distress when things don't happen as the way they wish to. Equally, their mind may have a tendency to experience pride such that they may think they are better than others and similar things, and they may have desire for gain simply for the benefit of self, or make use of material simply for the benefit of self, or promote self, or giving too much value, or grasping to various kind of identities, or such thoughts will prevent them from gaining nibbana. So equally, if you were to think about someone who is living a lifestyle of a householder, can also experience the same kind of pride when they gain certain things in life, whether they receive kind of education, whether they get a new job, or whether they get certain kind of gains into their own self, and they may also have the desire and tendency and wanting to use materials simply for the benefit of self, and may give value to various kind of identities, may be such that they are experiencing pride because of their education, because of their richness, because of their health, or because of their other identities, whether it's a place of location, geographical things, and so many other ways. And these kind of tendency in one's mind will prevent nibbana for oneself, because these tendencies in mind is actually giving seed to reach the kind of self-view. So the kind of idea of self-view that needs to be abandoned as a feather through middle mind training by Sri Mentor will also require one to abandon kind of pride and desire for gain simply for the benefit of self, jealousy, ill will, and also discriminating beings on many grounds, and also using material simply for benefit of self. So actually the distinction between a monk who is based on rites and rituals and a householder exists before Srimentary stage based on social standards, but according to universal standards, once after one gains into Srimentary, as Nibbana is shaped by universal law of karma, all beings are faced with the same things, and there is no difference in those who want to gain stream entry and above. They will all end their samsara in the same manner across 4 stages of Nibbana. So that just means to say that although standard social practices can seem to be dividing people or beings, the universal function is applicable to all, and the noble way of training, meaning not dividing, not discriminating, but treating everyone with respect and developing very kind of understanding to gain the deep understandings of the teachings of the Buddha, and abundant kind of clinging and various kind of identities, and the kind of the way that mind functions in two ways, in many ways, and give up them through middle mind training. This is also because mind is made self, one has, and also mind is made in the world. So identity views, other views, traditions, that those things has to be given by middle mind training. So some of the ways in which that reflections can help before someone gains to stream entries, kind of reflecting, I am subject to that, I am subject to illnesses, I will not always get what I want. So for instance, when someone always reflect, I am subject to death, when the real death comes, the person will not be shaken by it, because anyway they know it's a natural normal process. I am subject to illness when someone reflects that way on daily life. When they get ill, they will not be shaken by their illness, because they know it is something that happens to all, something that is natural and unavoidable. And if someone will reflect such that I will not get what I want in day-to-day life, then they know when they will not get things as the way they like, then that is also a normal process, and not to get too much worried about it. So these are the kind of reflections that can help one to realize life experience, and realization of life experience can gain by developing middle mind training, as I explained earlier. So the other aspect of so one of the, whenever mind gets attached, one is likely to experience dissatisfaction, and it is useful before rudimentary stage to be aware of such thoughts, and then try and reflect more on dissatisfied life experience, and try and think why dissatisfaction come to appear in mind. And then one realizes every time one just clings into that, clings into expectations, clings into hope, clings into yesterday and tomorrow, these things are what, getting attached to these things are only making us exhausted and dissatisfied. So knowing that, to avoid such dissatisfaction and dissatisfaction, when life experience comes to us, try and train the mind to get disenchanted, or not wishing for things so much, because we know anyway they're going to change. So these kind of thinking process are what that needs to be applied and understand and practice within one's mind, within one's daily life, to gain into a state of stream entry. However, this is one thing interesting, and it's worth noting that training the mind in the middle way is a one aspect. Another aspect also include understanding and abandoning fetters. That means view that there is a self, and doubts and giving too much value to rites and rituals can also be abandoned by training the mind into middle. Make use of whatever available to develop more deeper understanding, to give up too much value into this kind of idea of self, to have pride of self and similar things, giving too much value to socially created divisions and similar things, and social identities and similar things, because they are created based on normal standards, and nibbana meaning understanding beyond something normal or ordinary standards. One of the interesting things is that middle mind training is of course required, but apart from that, then it is essentially required to develop confirm confidence in the triple gem. So that is why developing 4 factors of stream entry, which in other way to say that stream entry is shaped by one's karma and merits, and karma and merits can be developed based on triple gem, which is universally applicable to all beings. So it is because the order of triple gem, which means Buddha, his teachings leading to Nibbana, and noble Sangha, they follow an order because of an importance, and the teachings always begins from Buddha himself, because for multiple reasons. One reason being Buddha is a teacher of all, and he understood for himself and showed us the path, and also because Buddha can provide the highest merits to those who pay homage to him, and so which is why this can shape karma. So the process of Sri mentioned above always begins with paying homage to Buddha as the first point of practice, and the second, teachings leading to Nibbana, and the third, noble Sangha, or those who have experienced Sotapanna to Arahantship for 4 stages. And so this noble order also serves a purpose. That just means they are able to share the teachings beyond ordinary views to other friends who are practicing and desiring and wanting to gain into stream entry and beyond, and also provide merits that are much needed for developing merits for others. And one interesting point, of course, although in ordinary standards, when there is an order or social order, you can see those who are in the highest in such a social order might might enjoy benefits for themselves and honor for themselves, but the noble order works in the opposite way of the standard order, which means when one gets to meet those who are the highest, they will be the most humblest and most caring and most really respecting others to the highest degree, who are able to provide the merits, and so Buddha being the highest, Arhat being the rest, and so on. So all Sangha is meant to look after one another and all, and this is the end of this presentation. And just to remind a few points again, Nibbana is a birth in noble lineage. It happens at a random instance, just like the birth of beings. And Nibbana is happening based on the universal law of karma. Therefore, the practice remains the same for all practitioners around the world. May all those practitioners who are wanting to gain Nibbana, and may all their noble wishes be come to be fulfilled, and may all beings be well and happy. This is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for listening.